In this video, we'll be going over why some of the Zoodiac cards are on the ban list, including the Dragon Guardragon Elpy. First up, let's go over Zoodiac Broadbull. Zoodiac Broadbull simply has the effect, which is shared amongst all Zoodiac Xyz monsters, where once per turn you can forego this card's normal summoning condition in order to Xyz summon this card on top of any one Zoodiac monster you control with a different name, in which case if it has Xyz materials they get transferred to this card. Then it has a different effect where once per turn you can detach one of its materials in order to search out any Beast Warrior type monster from your deck, as long as that monster has the ability to be normal summoned or set. And what's funny about Broadbull is that its first effect, where it has an alternative summoning condition, is a hard once per turn. But its second effect to search a card from your deck is not, and is only a soft once per turn, which is what causes the big problems with Zoodiac Broadbull. Extra deck cards that allow you to search other cards from your deck have to be real careful about not being broken. There's only a handful of them in the game, and generally, they only search out incredibly specific things, like Striker Dragon and Salomon Great Bale Links only searching out their Archetype Field Spell card, although both of those have a hard once per turn on even that search. There are other cards which can search out of the deck which are not hard once per turns, like King of the Feral Imps and Gear Giant X, which only have soft once per turns on their ability to search out any reptile or any level 4 lower machine type monster. And while those two cards only have a soft once per turn on their search, and technically King of Feral Imps can search out a wider range of targets, the reason these cards are not banned is because they're not super easy to bring out like Zoodiac Broadbull. In addition to the card being able to be brought out on top of any one Zoodiac monster, it can also just be brought out normally with just 2 level 4 monsters. So you could get off one search by just using its special ability to bring itself out easier, and then if you manage to get more monsters on the field, you could just hard summon the card with its normal summoning procedure to use the effect again. And Zoodiacs were able to do this very well. On screen I'll be showing the footage of a full-powered Zoodiac deck, using Zoodiac Broadbull to its full potential with only a single card in the opening hand. Although Zoodiac Broadbull was only part of the problem with what they were able to accomplish. The other part of it was Zoodiac Rapier, which allowed you to special summon other copies of it directly from the deck on a soft once per turn as well, which was reset every time a Zoodiac Xyz monster was summoned on top of it. Basically, Broadbull could be used in order to search out Lunalight Black Sheep, which could be used to search out Fusion Substitute. Fusion Substitute could be used to bring out Elder Entity Norden, who simply required any 2 Xyz monsters as his fusion materials, which coincidentally, all of the Zoodiac cards are. So after using Zoodiac Tiger Mortar in order to get 2 copies of Zoodiac Rapier from the deck, you could then use your XC monsters to go into Norden in order to bring back a level 4 monster from the graveyard, which will allow you to hard summon Zoodiac Broadbull. Then Broadbull could be used to search out Coach Captain Bearman, who could change your Rapiers in the field to level 8 to allow you to go into Coach King Giant Trainer, which then allowed you to draw 3 cards, then you could draw 1 more by using Fusion Substitute to reset Norden. And then you could just kind of go off from there, using Daigusto Emerald to reset the Zoodiacs back into the deck, and then extend with whatever cards you had, as I ended up resolving the effect of Zoodiac Broadbull 3 times. In the example I'm showing, the board ends off with 4 cards on the field and 5 cards in the hand, which is a +8 in card advantage, with only 1 card from the starting hand. However, most of the cards involved in this ridiculous advantageous board state are banned. So, if Zoodiac Broadbull was released with the ban list today, you wouldn't be able to do this, but even then, the lack of once per turn and how easy it is to summon and how good a lot of the targets it can search out are, it would still be strong today, by the fact that Zoodiacs still see play even without Zoodiac Broadbull. So if their ridiculously good searcher isn't even needed for the deck to function, then it just kinda shows how broken 1-card XC summons are. Konami made a big mistake with the Zoodiac archetype. Their whole gimmick was being able to bring out any of their extra deck monsters with a single card on the field. And it ended off with one of the few Tier 0 formats, where there was even an event where every single top 32 deck was a variant of Zoodiac. It was probably the only time a Tier 0 format had 100% representation at an event, which should go to show how strong 1-card extra deck summons are. And that has kind of held true even after Zoodiacs, where they didn't stop experimenting with this, as I'll talk about later. Zoodiac Broadbull was banned in September of 2017, 7 months after its release. One of the fastest a card was banned after its initial release. Could Zoodiac Broadbull be unbanned? Seeing as they recently unbanned and then banned a different Zoodiac monster? Probably not, as Zoodiac Broadbull is the hyper-consistent king of the Zoodiac deck, even with Zoodiac Rapier limited to 1 copy. I can't see Zoodiac Broadbull being unbanned anytime soon, unless they rat its effect, or the power creep of the game just gets to the point where it's no longer that big of a deal, and they never put Zoodiac back to 3, or ever unban Elder Entity Norden. How could Zoodiac Broadbull be fixed to be unbanned? If they slapped a hard once per turn on its search effect, that might do it. I would still be strong though, but the current problem with the card is its ability to be able to reuse that effect. Although the effect is still kind of strong even if you slap a hard once per turn on it. So additionally, I would also change it to only search out Zoodiac monsters instead of any Beast Warrior type monster, because that just kind of adds all kinds of unintended combos to a card, which was obviously meant to search out its archetype. If it could only search out Zoodiac monsters, it still might be too strong, which I think is kind of funny. Next up, we have Zoodiac Drident. This card was also banned at the same time as Zoodiac Broadbull, but then it was unbanned in the April 2020 ban list, because the power of the game got to the point where Zoodiac Drident wasn't that big of a deal anymore. Which was true for about 6 months. Zoodiac Drident has the effect where it can XC summon itself on top of any one Zoodiac card, like all of the Zoodiac XC's monsters, and then it has an additional effect where once per turn it can detach one of its materials to destroy one face-up card on the field. And this effect is a quick effect, which means you can use it during either player's turn and use it to disrupt plays. And Zoodiac Drident was the boss monster of the Zoodiac archetype. There is no point in gaining a whole bunch of advantage if you can't use it for anything. So you would use Zoodiac Broadbull to build up a huge board, and then use Zoodiac Drident in order to sit on that board and stop your opponent from doing anything, or just destroy whatever you wanted. Zoodiac Drident was also a SOT once per turn with its destruction effect. So if you managed to get out 3 Zoodiac Dridents, then you would have 3 pops each turn. And because of just how good Zoodiacs were, in an effort to stop their tier 0 dominance of Zoodiacs in 2017, they banned Zoodiac Broadbull and Drident, while also limiting Zoodiac Ratpier to 1, which definitely did the job, as those were the 3 problem cards of the deck. Although without a boss monster, Zoodiacs couldn't really do anything anymore, so they kind of fell into obscurity. So after 3 years on the ban list, Konami decided to unban Zoodiac Drident at the cost of putting Zoodiac Barrage to 1 copy, which is a continuous spell card that allows you to special summon a Zoodiac monster from your deck. So they lowered the consistency of Zoodiacs a little bit so they could bring back the boss monster of the archetype to 1 copy, so that maybe they could do something again. And it did. Zoodiac did see competitive play once Zoodiac Drident was brought out. But it wasn't a dominant meta strategy like it was in the past, because Zoodiac Ratpier was still at 1 copy, and Zoodiac Broadbull was still banned. Then 6 months later, in November 2020, Divine Arsenal AA Zeus Sky Thunder was released. This is a rank 12 XC's monster, which either requires 2 level 12 monsters as materials, or has an alternative summoning condition in order to ignore its normal procedure, where if you control an XC's monster that has battled this turn, Zeus will then have its effect live, where it can XC summon itself on top of any XC's monster you control, which does not have to be the XC's monster that battled, where it then gains the materials that card had, and Zeus itself also has a quick effect, where you can detach 2 of its materials to send every other card in the field to the graveyard, without destruction or targeting anything. So it's a full board wipe in one of the best possible ways of removal. And what's really great about Zeus is that its effect is not once per turn at all. Its ability to bring itself out with its alternative summoning condition is once per turn, but not its quick effect, which means if you have enough materials attached to Zeus, you can just chain its effect on top of itself. And Zoodiacs were really good at getting out a whole bunch of XC's materials onto a single monster, with only a single summon. So what Zoodiacs would do was actually use one of their lesser known Zoodiac XC's monster called Zoodiac Borbo, which can bring itself on top of any Zoodiac monster like all the other Zoodiac XC's monsters, and also has the effect where it can attack directly. So thanks to Zoodiac Borbo, you could pretty much always guarantee that you're going to have an XC's monster attacking. Then during the main phase 2, you could simply bring out Drident on top of Borbo in order to destroy a card, or just ignore that and go straight into Zeus. Then just use Zeus to wipe the field. If your opponent tries to negate the effect of Zeus, it would have 6 XC's materials attached to it thanks to the 5 Zoodiac XC's monster, plus the 1 Zoodiac monster on the field to start the whole thing. So you can activate Zeus's effect 3 times in sequence, which means your opponent would have to negate Zeus 3 times if they wanted to stop the full board wipe. Which basically meant if Zeus came out, it was going to remove everything, and it was very hard for your opponent to stop it. However, thanks to Zoodiac Drident, it also gave the deck a whole bunch of versatility in being able to create a board state in the first place, where you could then eventually bring out Zeus in order to be a big boss monster. The ability to just destroy any one card on the field by detaching one of its materials is actually super good, especially on its quick effect. So it could be used in response to something else, or you can just sit on a copy of Zoodiac Drident during your opponent's turn to destroy something if you weren't able to bring out Zeus. Zoodiac Drident was just the ultimate middleman into Zeus, and just opened up all kinds of control options so that you can bring out Zeus and even if you didn't use its effect, it provided one more additional material so that Zeus would have 6 materials for its 3 activations. And Drident Zeus combos were just a monster in the game again, as you can go into an unbeatable Zeus with just 1 card in the field thanks to how the Zoodiacs work, so Drident was eventually banned in the June 2021 ban list in order to lower the power level of Zeus decks a bit, because it was making them too versatile and consistent. They can still bring out Zeus pretty easily thanks to Zoodiac Boarbow still being in the game, but they definitely lost their control card, which allowed them to be more versatile in how they played. Could Zoodiac Drident be unbanned? If they were to ban Zeus, they could probably unban the card without too much problems. The ability to have an easy to use Raigeki break always has the ability to be a little bit too strong. Part of the reason Masterpiece is banned is also because it has an easy to use Raigeki break. And there's a reason they stopped adding this ability to boss monsters after Zoodiac Drident and Masterpiece were banned, with Spiral Sleeper being one of the last meta archetype boss monsters that could do something like that. Until they added Zeus, which kind of broke all the rules, of course. And the reason a Raigeki break on a boss monster is so strong is because you can just use it to stop your opponent plays before they can start them, or use it to pop a back row that might be devastating you, destroy a floodgate, or just push for game if you're able to destroy one of your opponent's boss monsters. There isn't really a bad downside to being able to destroy one of your opponent's cards whenever you want, which is why Raigeki break has the inherent -1 cost to it. So if you're able to use Raigeki break-like effect without going -1 in the process, like Drident, who's able to use one of its infinite supply of Xyz materials, then you're just gaining all kinds of advantage over the course of the card's time being on the field. Even then, if Zeus was ever banned, they could probably bring back Zoodiac Drident to 1 copy. Zoodiacs currently in 2021 are more restrictive on the ban list than they were back in 2017, because they left Zoodiac Barrage on the limited list after they rebanned Drident. How could they fix Zoodiac Drident to be unbanned? Well, seeing as it has an incredibly easy to use Raigeki break, if they wanted it to be less easy to use, I would say make it require detaching 2 materials instead of just 1. At 1 material, it's too easy to use. At 2 materials, it's still possible to use in Zoodiac decks, as their whole gimmick is being able to get a whole bunch of materials onto 1 Xyz monster, but would no longer allow single card Zoodiac Drident pops before going into something else. I'm not sure if a hard once per turn would really help, so just making the quick effect harder to use is probably the best way to go. And finally, we have Guardragon Elpy. This is a Link 1 monster which just requires a level 4 lower dragon type monster as its material, and then has the effect where once per turn during your main phase you can special summon any 1 dragon monster from your hand or deck to a zone that 2 of your Link monsters are pointing to. And it also has the downside where you cannot special summon monsters except dragon monsters while it's on the field. Now, the existence of Link 1 monsters proves that Konami didn't really learn a lesson from Zoodiacs, which was kinda driven home by how powerful Zeus is. Although Link 1 monsters always have the potential to be a really big problem, which is why 1/3 of all banned Link monsters are Link 1 monsters. You see, the problem with Link 1 monsters is that you don't lose advantage for going into them. So, say for example, you bring out a monster who has a great effect on the field, or whatever. It does its thing and basically spent its existence on the field, and now just kinda sits there taking up space. You can give that card a second life if it happens to be a material for a Link 1 monster. So, even though the card probably already made you go +1 if it searched something out, or destroyed something, special something else, whatever it did in order to make itself useful on the field, you could now use it as a material to go into something like Guardragon Elpy in order to be useful again, without losing any advantage. And then Guardragon Elpy is just pure advantage. It allows you to special summon any dragon type monster from your deck, which in itself is one of the strongest effects you can have on a monster. Being able to special summon monsters from your deck is even stronger when it's attached to an extra deck monster, because you don't have to search those cards out, you can just bring them out, as long as you have a game state which facilitates them. Which is even more broken when it's a Link 1 monster, which already has the potential to be too strong because of the advantages I described earlier. It's able to use a card that has already been useful in the field in order to gain even more useful effects to special summon any 1 dragon monster from your deck. And there are tons of ways to make use of this, especially since it's versatile and allows you to choose a target in your hand as well. One of its best targets before it got an errata was Red Eye's Darkness Metal Dragon, since that card can also special summon a dragon from your hand or graveyard, which turned Guardragon Elpy into a +2 if it brought that card out. Which it could still do because even after the errata, you could still use the effect once before it went on its hard once per turn. In Dragon Link decks, I'll be showing an example on screen, they could use Guardragon Elpy to search out whatever they needed for their current combo in order to continue that combo without losing any advantage. Guardragon Elpy was kind of released broken on purpose, and the reason it took so long to get banned, as it wasn't actually banned until 2 years after it was released, was because it was released alongside Guardragon Agripane and Guardragon Pisty. Guardragon Pisty isn't that big of a deal, but Guardragon Agripane was so overpowered that it definitely overshadowed Guardragon Elpy. Guardragon Agripane has the effect where it can special summon any dragon monster from your extra deck to a zone that 2 link monsters are pointing to, or to just an extra monster zone. And being able to cheat out any dragon type monster from your extra deck is definitely way more powerful than being able to cheat out one from your main deck. But they're both strong. That's like saying an 11 out of 10 is stronger than a 10 out of 10. Because sure, it is more powerful, but that doesn't mean a 10 out of 10 isn't still the top. So Agripane was eventually banned pretty quickly because I'm not sure what they were thinking with that effect. But then Guardragon Elpy just kind of stayed unhindered for 2 years. It absolutely saw non-stop competitive play, and contributed to some of the strongest decks, but other decks were still able to compete, so I guess it didn't seem as overpowered alongside other overpowered decks. And as the other decks started getting hit one by one, Guardragon Elpy's power level just kind of stood out, where it was eventually banned as well alongside them. There's no one combo or one deck in which Elpy was super powerful. It was a cornerstone of Dragon Link, where they used a whole bunch of cards. The card itself is just overpowered, especially being a Link 1 monster, which just made it effortless to use in pretty much any dragon deck. And also a fun fact, 7 of the 29 banned extra deck monsters are cards that can special summon a monster from the deck, with 7 more of them being able to special summon a monster in other ways, which means about half of the banned extra deck monsters are banned because they allow you to summon more monsters. Guardragon Elpy was banned in July of 2021. Could Guardragon Elpy be unbanned? I'm surprised it was unbanned for 2 years, to be honest. Generally, the effect of special summon on an extra deck monster has historically been very strong unless it has a lot of restrictions, and Guardragon Elpy does not have enough restrictions for how wide range of targets it could bring out. How could they fix Guardragon Elpy to be unbanned? I think probably one of the best ways would be to make it not a Link 1 monster. Even Guardragon Agripane was a Link 2. A Link 1 just means Guardragon Elpy loses no advantage for coming out at all, and is purely beneficial with its strong effect. So if it required at least one more resource, that would go a long way to help. Also, if they just added onto its restrictions to special summons, where it gave you an effect for the entire turn where you cannot special summon except dragons, that would definitely help to lower its power level, because you can too easily bypass its downside by just linking the card away with some kind of Dragon Link 2 or higher. Which I guess could also be solved by just not allowing the card to be used as a link material instead, like the Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardiche. Alternatively, you could restrict the targets it special summons, at least to level 4 and lower dragons would be a nice start, or if it was restricted to only Guardragon monsters, that would probably be good enough as well. Alright, and that's the list, very slowly going over every single banned card in the game. Make sure you watch all the other videos in this series, which will be linked in a playlist at the end of the video.